I'm Clara Bennett, a 41-year-old woman blessed with a beautiful family, my husband Martin, and our two kids, Leo and Iris. Life hadn't always been kind, but now it was filled with laughter and love. That is, until one unexpected evening shattered the peace. I was at a friend's gala when I saw him, Victor, the man I once called my husband. He was there, with her, Helena, the woman he left me for. My heart pounded as I felt their eyes on me, and then Victor's voice cut through the crowd, loud and sneering. "Clara, is that you? Wow, time hasn't been too kind, has it? Still alone, I bet. No one wants a woman who can't bear children." His words stung like a slap. I could feel the eyes of the crowd on us, the whispers growing louder. Helena, standing beside him with a smug smile, chimed in, her voice dripping with fake pity. "Oh, Clara, you haven't changed a bit. Still trying to fit into dresses too young for your age, and still barren, I suppose." Their laughter echoed in my ears. I stood there, my fists clenched, struggling to maintain my composure. But then something unexpected happened. Leo and Iris, my two miracles, appeared beside me. Leo, tall and confident, his arm protectively around my shoulder, and Iris, her eyes blazing with fire. "Excuse me, Mr. Victor." Leo's voice was calm but firm. "Your words are disrespectful. This is my mother, and I won't allow you to insult her." Victor's smug smile faltered, and Helena's face tightened. They hadn't expected this. They hadn't known about my children. "Your mother?" Victor scoffed, trying to regain his composure. "Well, I'm surprised. I thought she was infertile." Iris stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "She is my mother, and she's perfect, more than anyone can say about you." The crowd around us began to murmur, some with shock, others with newfound respect. Victor and Helena looked around, realizing they were no longer the center of attention in the way they had hoped. As they stumbled over their words, trying to regain their dignity, Martin appeared. His presence was commanding, his gaze stern, as he looked at Victor and Helena. "Is there a problem here?" His voice was calm, but there was an underlying edge that made Victor shrink back. "Martin, we were just—" Victor started, but Martin cut him off. "I think you've said enough. It's time you leave." As they walked away, heads bowed, I felt a surge of pride for my family. We stood there, united, stronger than ever. And as we turned back to join the gala, I knew that this was just the beginning. We were going to face whatever came our way, together. The confrontation with Victor and Helena had opened old wounds, taking me back to a time I had tried so hard to forget. Sitting in my living room later that evening, the memories came flooding back, each one a sharp jab to my heart. Martin noticed my distant gaze. "You okay, Clara?" he asked, his voice laced with concern. I sighed, the weight of the past heavy on my chest, just thinking about Victor and how it all went wrong. He sat beside me, his hand finding mine. "You don't have to go through this alone." I nodded, grateful for his support, and began recounting the story. Victor and I were college sweethearts, the kind of couple everyone envied, but our fairy tale crumbled when we couldn't conceive. Every month brought more disappointment, and with it a growing distance between us. "Victor started changing," I whispered, the pain evident in my voice. "He became cold, cruel even. His words would cut deeper each day." Martin's grip tightened, a silent show of solidarity. He'd mock me, blame me for our childlessness. "When will I ever become a father?" he'd say, as if it was all my fault. The memories were vivid, each word Victor had uttered, a sharp stab. His disdain had grown, his taunts more frequent. I remembered how he would compare me to his sister, who had effortlessly conceived, his words laced with mockery and contempt. "And then came Helena," I continued, the bitterness hard to conceal. "She worked at the same company as me, the boss's daughter, beautiful and entitled. Everyone knew she got the job through connections." Martin's face hardened. "She was part of the reason you left your job, wasn't she?" I nodded, feeling the old anger resurface. "She spread rumors, twisted the truth, made it seem like I was the villain in their affair." The unfairness of it all, the way Helena had painted herself as the victim, while I was ostracized and forced to resign, was a bitter pill to swallow. "But you know what hurts the most?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "It's how easily Victor discarded our years together for her." Martin wrapped his arms around me, his embrace warm and comforting. "But you rose above it all, Clara. You built a new life, a better one." I leaned into him, the warmth of his embrace a soothing balm to my aching heart. "Yes, I did," I murmured, a renewed sense of strength building within me. And now, it's time for Victor and Helena to see just how much I've overcome. As we sat there, united in our resolve, I knew that this was just the beginning. Victor and Helena had reignited a fire within me, a determination to show them that I was no longer the woman they had wronged. I was stronger, happier, and surrounded by a family that loved me, and I was ready to fight back. The next day, the events at the gala were still fresh in my mind. I sat at the breakfast table, my thoughts a turbulent sea. Martin, sensing my unease, gave my hand a reassuring squeeze under the table. "What are you going to do, Mom?" Iris asked, her young face etched with concern. "I need to face this head-on," I replied, determination in my voice. "I can't let Victor and Helena think they've won." Leo looked up, his eyes fierce. "We're with you, Mom. They can't treat you like that and get away with it." Their words bolstered my resolve. It wasn't just my battle anymore. It was ours. The opportunity came sooner than expected. A charity event at Leo's school, where I was a volunteer, brought Victor and Helena back into my orbit. They were there, ostentatiously mingling when I decided it was time for a showdown. I approached them, my family beside me. Victor's smirk faded as he saw us coming. Helena's eyes narrowed, but I could see the unease behind her facade. "Clara, what a surprise," Victor said, his voice dripping with insincerity. "Cut the act, Victor," I snapped. "I know what you're trying to do, but it won't work." Helena laughed, a hollow sound. "Oh, Clara, still playing the victim? It's pathetic." I felt my anger rising, but kept my composure. "The only pathetic thing here is your lack of remorse. You wrecked a marriage, Helena, and you, Victor, you destroyed the woman who loved you." The crowd around us had started to notice, their whispers growing louder. Victor's face turned red, anger and embarrassment mixing in his expression. "You have no right to talk to us like that," Victor hissed. "You're nothing but a bitter, barren woman." That's when Martin stepped in, his voice calm but powerful. "Enough, Victor. You've done enough damage. It's time you face the consequences of your actions." Helena's face paled at Martin's words. She knew the weight they carried, the influence he had. "And as for you, Helena," I continued, "your actions at the company won't go unnoticed. I've kept quiet for too long. It's time everyone knew the truth about how you operate." Fear flickered in Helena's eyes. She knew her reputation was at stake. "You wouldn't dare," she stammered. I looked her straight in the eye. "Watch me." As we walked away, leaving a stunned Victor and Helena behind, I felt a surge of triumph. The tables had turned. They had underestimated me, but no more. I was no longer the woman they could trample on. I turned to my family, their faces filled with pride and support. "It's just the beginning," I said, a smile breaking through. "They're going to regret ever crossing us." As the week progressed, the impact of our confrontation at the charity event became evident. Rumors swirled, and the once untouchable image of Victor and Helena started to crumble. But I knew this was just the surface of the storm that was brewing. One evening, Martin came home with news that set the course for our next move. "Clara, I heard something today at work," he began, his tone serious. I looked up, attentive. "What is it?" "It's about Helena's position at her company. It seems her actions haven't gone unnoticed. The board is questioning her ethics." A sense of vindication washed over me. Helena's reign at her company, built on nepotism and manipulation, was finally being questioned. "And Victor?" I asked, knowing that his downfall was just as important. "His company is under scrutiny too," Martin replied. "They've been losing contracts, and there are whispers that it's due to his personal indiscretions." I felt a mix of emotions, satisfaction at their impending downfall, yet a pang of sorrow for how low they had stooped. "We need to be strategic about this," Martin advised. "If we push too hard, it could backfire." I nodded in agreement. "We'll be smart, but they need to face the consequences of their actions." The following day, an opportunity presented itself. A major networking event brought together the elite of the business world, including the boards of both Victor's and Helena's companies. Martin and I were also in attendance, a power couple among the city's finest. As we mingled, I could feel the stares, the whispers. Our recent actions had not gone unnoticed. Victor and Helena were there too, their usual confidence replaced by a noticeable tension. "Clara," Helena approached, her voice strained. "Can we talk?" I looked at her, seeing the desperation in her eyes. "What is it, Helena?" I know I've wronged you, but please don't ruin my career. I'll do anything." Her plea was a far cry from the arrogant woman I once knew, but it was too little, too late. "Helena, you made your bed. Now you have to lie in it," I said calmly. Victor, overhearing our conversation, joined us, his face a mask of worry. "Clara, let's not make this messier than it needs to be." I met his gaze, unflinching. "Victor, you destroyed our marriage, and Helena, you helped him. You both need to take responsibility for that." As we spoke, key members of their companies' boards overheard our exchange. The looks on their faces said it all. Victor and Helena's days of influence were numbered. Leaving them to their fate, Martin and I walked away, hand in hand. The balance had shifted. Victor and Helena were no longer the ones in control. They were finally reaping what they had sown. The following weeks were a whirlwind of rumors and revelations. The downfall of Victor and Helena was not just a distant possibility anymore. It was happening in real time. Martin and I watched from the sidelines, a mix of disbelief and satisfaction coloring our observations. One evening, as we sat in our living room, Martin broke the news. "Helena's been suspended from her position," he said, his voice tinged with a sense of justice served. "And Victor?" I asked. My curiosity piqued. "His company lost another major client. There's talk of him being pushed out." I leaned back, letting the information sink in. This was the karma they had earned, the result of years of deceit and cruelty. It wasn't long before Helena reached out to me. I answered the phone to her pleading voice. "Clara, please, you have to help me. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Her words rang hollow. "Helena, you never thought about the consequences when you were spreading lies about me. Why should I help you now?" "You don't understand, Clara. My whole life is falling apart." "That's the problem, Helena. You never understood the impact of your actions on others. Now, you're facing the same." The call ended with Helena in tears, but I felt no sympathy. She was finally experiencing a fraction of the pain she had caused me. The next blow came for Victor. He showed up at our house one evening, a shadow of his former self. "Clara, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. I met his gaze, steel in my eyes. "What is it, Victor?" "It's all gone wrong. My career, my reputation. I'm losing everything." His plea for sympathy was met with my unwavering stance. "You brought this on yourself, Victor. You and Helena. You thought you could walk over people without any repercussions. Well, you were wrong." Victor looked defeated, his shoulders slumped. "I never meant for it to go this far." "But it did, Victor, and now you have to live with the consequences, just like I did." As Victor left, the reality of their situation was clear. The tables had turned. The once powerful and untouchable duo were now facing the harsh truth of their actions. I turned to Martin, his support unwavering. "It's over," I said, a sense of closure washing over me. "They're finally getting what they deserve." Martin nodded, a look of pride in his eyes. "You stood your ground, Clara. You showed them that they couldn't break you." As we sat there, the feeling of triumph was bittersweet. Victor and Helena's downfall was a testament to the power of karma, but it also served as a reminder of the pain they had caused. Still, it was a necessary end to a chapter filled with deceit and betrayal. In the aftermath of Victor and Helena's downfall, life at the Bennett household was returning to a semblance of normalcy. Yet, the echoes of the past still lingered in our conversations. One evening, as we gathered for dinner, Iris spoke up, her youthful curiosity evident. "Mom, do you think Mr. Victor and Miss Helena will ever realize what they did wrong?" I pondered her question, looking across the table at Martin and Leo. "I hope they do, Iris. Sometimes it takes losing everything to understand the value of what you had." Leo, usually the quieter one, added his thoughts. "It's like they got a taste of their own medicine. But, Mom, are you okay with how everything turned out?" I smiled at him, my heart full. "I am, Leo. It's not just about revenge. It's about standing up for yourself and not letting others define your worth." Martin nodded in agreement. "It's been a tough journey, but we've come out stronger as a family. That's what matters most." The conversation shifted to lighter topics, but the lesson remained clear. We had faced our adversaries and emerged victorious, not just in their downfall, but in our unity as a family. The next day brought an unexpected turn. Helena called me, her voice subdued. "Clara, I wanted to apologize for everything. I've lost my job, my reputation, and I've had a lot of time to think." Her words were a stark contrast to her earlier arrogance. Apologies don't change the past, Helena, but they're a start. I know I can't undo what I've done, but I'm truly sorry. I accepted her apology, not for her sake, but for my own peace of mind. Letting go of the bitterness was a step towards my own healing. Victor, however, remained silent. No apologies, no acknowledgments. But in his silence, I found my closure. I didn't need his words to validate my journey. As weeks turned into months, our family embraced the joys of everyday life. Leo's achievements at school, Iris's creative pursuits, and the simple pleasure of family dinners became our focus. One evening, as we sat in the living room, Martin looked at me, a twinkle in his eye. "You know, Clara, we've been through a lot, but I wouldn't change a thing about our journey." I leaned against him, my heart content. "Neither would I, Martin. We've built something beautiful from the ashes of the past." As we laughed and planned for the future, I realized that the best revenge was not in the downfall of Victor and Helena, but in the life we had built in spite of them, a life full of love, laughter, and unwavering support. Months had passed since the downfall of Victor and Helena, and the Bennett household buzzed with a new kind of energy. It was a sunny Saturday morning, and we were preparing for a special celebration, a party to commemorate the opening of Iris's art exhibition. As we decorated the backyard, Iris couldn't contain her excitement. "Mom, can you believe it? My own exhibition!" I smiled at her, pride swelling in my heart. "I always knew you'd do great things, Iris." Leo joined in, helping to hang the decorations. "Yeah, sis, you're gonna be famous!" Martin watched us with a contented smile. "This family, you're all incredible." The doorbell rang, and I went to answer it. To my surprise, it was Helena, standing awkwardly on the doorstep. "Helena, what are you doing here?" I asked, surprised yet composed. She looked different, the arrogance gone, replaced by a certain humility. I came to apologize in person, Clara. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry, truly sorry." Her words caught me off guard. It was a far cry from the Helena I knew. "I appreciate your apology, Helena. It takes courage to admit your mistakes." She handed me an envelope. "I made a donation to Iris's exhibition. It's the least I could do." As she turned to leave, I saw a change in her. Perhaps this was the start of her own journey of redemption. The party was a success, Iris's art receiving praise from all who attended. As the evening settled in, Martin pulled me aside. "Clara, do you ever think about what life would have been like if things hadn't turned out this way?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I thought for a moment, reflecting on the journey that had brought us here. "I used to, but not anymore. Our experiences, even the painful ones, have shaped us. They've brought us here, to this moment, and I wouldn't change that for the world." Martin smiled, his love for me evident in his gaze. "I'm proud of you, Clara. You've shown incredible strength." As we rejoined the party, I looked around at my family, Martin, Leo, and Iris, and felt a deep sense of fulfillment. We had weathered the storm, faced our adversaries, and emerged stronger. In that moment, I realized that our true triumph wasn't just in overcoming Victor and Helena's cruelty, but in the life we had built in spite of them. A life filled with love, resilience, and the promise of new beginnings. As the night drew to a close, I took one last look at the stars above, a smile playing on my lips. We had turned our trials into triumphs, and in doing so we had found our true strength.